When we look at the gentleness of life, we cannot avoid the gentleness of our face. We see that reality is slow and fast, and sometimes it doesn't move, but we're still here. We're here. What any man can do when communicating to you is to give you an experience of communication. And so when he communicates to you, it is, in a sense, irrelevant to you, but made relevant by how much you put your attention on things. A lot of the time, success is having your attention on a reality where you are victorious in, perhaps. You will see that our mind is something to explore, and this is Mr. Within's invitation to every human being, because every person is a treasure revealer. And what that means that when you look at your own intelligence, you can share the beauty of its expression. That's it. It's very simple. Because you see, guys, the nature of consciousness at some point reaches such an ability to confront its separation that it knows it's there. So you know you're here, but you need to realize the reason I'm saying to be playful, and Mr. Within's method is pretty much, I guess, in this scene and in this context of trying to explore deeper aspects of ourselves, you need to, in a sense, cut the noise. If you have doubt, insecurity, guys, that is literally not you. That is just another person's reality in which you're analyzing. So it's like a comparison. So perhaps what that could mean could be as similar as if I see my friend fall, I might get a fear of jumping too. And so as a human being, we don't want that to happen. We want to understand that we want to take ourselves so seriously in regards to being playful that there's nothing that can disturb us when we are being aware of something, when we are paying attention to something, you know? And when I say nothing disturbs you, I mean you do not fall victim to your own assumptions of how your next step's gonna be. You don't go into these complex modalities of thought. And let me tell you, if you do not, when you're exploring the nature of mind, you have to work through modalities at first. You're constantly bringing ideas, and ideas are like, you know, titans fighting with one another. They are huge. One idea brings in a viewpoint that is totally true of this aspect of existence, and one idea brings another, and so they are actually on the edge of each other's blades. Because you see that the story will become insignificant immediately when your presence becomes significant. A lot of people feel that life's polarities can't be changed. And that's true. It cannot be changed if you try to, but there's something to it I'm going to tell you right now. It cannot change if you're trying to change your life. Trust me. Your life cannot change if you're trying to change your thought, change your life. Because you are still thinking about it, but just in a way that's more comfortable for you to acknowledge. Sometimes I noticed the biggest healing I did on myself was to get rid of some of the nonsense ideas I have by seeing that they are not meaningful. What that means is that perhaps you acknowledge meaning in different ways. you see that every human being, life means something different to them, and that's the beauty of it. The nature of your mind is clear. And in a sense, you will confront your own emptiness as you're still. And when I say playfulness, guys, playfulness is simply an allowance for things to happen. That is my steps. And that's how you really enjoy life. Because if you do not keep a sense of, okay, let me say it like this. You will see that after you have really rationally thought about everything you can, you've read the most interesting sciences and words and all that, you will see after you've read all the books in the world, and somehow in an instant glimpsed at every technology page or any words ever written, you would see after that, you would want to look at reality differently. One thing we are sure of is that the human being is constantly moving and looking at ways of life differently. But throughout these ways of life, looking at them differently and whatnot, it has understood that what is moving forward is unshaped in a sense of infinite oneness, if I can say that. And when I say that, you will see that, guys, some words, you don't have to take them literally. That's it. You don't have to take some words literally. People are not sensitive with that. So when someone says, like, the word spiritual, for example, you're taking that too literally. And that's why once you take something literally, you can deconstruct it and you see the arrogance of angry men bashing people who they think they're less wittier than them. But that's a foolish act. You see that the tendency of life is always to allow itself to grow and express in new ways. So once you allow yourself to be expressed in new ways, there is no longer a past you hold on to because your excitement is moving forward at an instantaneous speed. It's weird. It's in a sense like once you become aware of the experiencer, there is a certain silence that occurs that all your thoughts or memories or whatever, at least this is my experience, in a sense, spiral and fade into one idea that captured them all. And in my observance of that one idea, you hear, you don't hear actually, for me, I feel a sense of detachment. It's as if you feel the energetic being you are and the ability and knowing you have of this energetic presence, but as it transitions, it's a detachment from thought, so it feels similar as if there was a car parked behind you and suddenly it's gone. Literally, it feels that way. So that emptiness is actually an emptiness that occurs after one confronts their fears, after one confronts their ideas that are trying to destroy them and ideas that are trying to create them. Because Lao Tzu Guys, I want to tell you that Lao Tzu has a quote. And the reason I want to communicate this quote and share my idea, because it is my gift of intense expansion to you. My victory is every being experiencing themselves to the fullest. In other words, your creative output, your production is immense and naturally allowed. You're handling life's problems to a degree that there are no problems, just amazing handling. But now to continue, guys, Lao Tzu has a quote. And so this is Mr. Within's voice to the leaders of tomorrow. And also Lao Tzu's quote. The quote from Lao Tzu that I want to share with you is this. A leader is best when people barely know he exists, when his work is done, his aim fulfilled. They will say, "We did it ourselves." And what that, in a sense, means is that when you look at who you are as a being, you can no longer, after a level of self-observance, maintain and be in suffering. Once you're self-aware, once you have explored the beauty of your being, you cannot be ignorant to create suffering for yourself. So you don't see suffering, and even you do, the way you handle it is a sense of being absorbed, integrated with the other polarity to be a greater action, you know? So guys, Lao Tzu, a very wise sage, showed us that regardless of praise, regardless of if you're showing you have money, you don't have money, or you want money, or whatever, regardless, after you have done what you have done, the people would say we have done it ourselves. Your sense of leadership is the greatest decision of the whole. And so if you have been ignorant of people, you stop and you start loving people. You understand that they are brothers in existence. You know, your brother in existence. And so you care for the sense of family, because the more you integrate, the more familiar, and I guess in a sense more immersed your sense of being will be with all that is. So what that means is right now I'm walking and I have an experience on the ground. I have an experience of this bench beside me. I look around and I see colors, trees, different structures, clocks, and whatnot. However, in this same walk, I will confront my body and, in a sense, imagine me just being here. I don't really have a thought. I'm just looking. I'm looking like that guy who doesn't understand enough, let's say, to have a thought. There's a sense of huge don't know that authentically makes you stop speaking when life is teaching. When you recognize the true momentum of existence, you are not bothered by any co-creation with any sense of other or outside or other person or this or that. And so the walk turns from no longer I'm walking on the ground, no longer I'm looking at a bench, no longer are the colors the same, Because for a second, all those separate thoughts, those thoughts are absorbed in one thought. And you see the beauty of metaphors where a leaf perhaps could define the cosmos. And so you recognize, similar to the beauty and the fractal quality of nature you see, you are a natural expression of nature. And so regardless of how linear man thinks he is, nature knows it's non-linear, the essence. So what that means is, like, for example, being that man who, in a sense, for example, visualize you're here, right? And your perhaps, like, let's say 7-year-old self is suddenly in front of you and telling you, I want to be an astronaut, And you see, it's as if like a child is just telling you his reality. It's like a child's making sense of things. Oh, I can be something. Whoa, I want to, you know what I mean? It's like, let's say if the you thought in such a way, you would see that, you would say no. If your 7-year-old self came and told you, like, I'm not, this. But when you yourself know, you're like, no, Nature is wise because that is where wisdom comes from, in any form. Because the wisdom of nature allows us to learn that the moment is eternal when the temporal is always in the wheel of its turn. How you are driven requires an allowance of your own sense of professionality, your own sense of expertise to manifest. So guys, in all these things where I say, for example, the leader at the end of his task, people don't even see him, they're just like, we did it ourselves, that's because that leader is not attached to a material idea. A lot of people they say, I'm not attached to material stuff. But then recognize, perhaps in meditation and other points in their life, that they're still very strictly on some subtler level identifying with the materiality of their thought. So for example, the thought of the square is as much solid as the square. And so your memory works in a way where it shows you what you feel you don't know but can know. Because the present moment is hope. It's filled with hope. And hope is one of those words who's reached the end that it doesn't require definition. It requires action. You need to let yourself experience, for example, the walk you have in the park, similar to how you are aware of your thoughts. You realize when you're walking, you're continuing on, you're flowing, regardless of any praise or anything or any sense of getting, I guess, your spotlight of attention put on a reality which you are the winner, the god, the prophet, whatever, in regards to other men, then you're not truly being aware of the divine. The divine does not try to divine because it does not identify with realities that are separate, because the knowing is always unified. And so you see that beauty you saw in the sunset was even more beautifuler if you had the view of that which saw you viewing that sunset. As we are a natural phenomena, especially man is constantly creating realities. It's very interesting. Your realities are constantly shifting because your co-creation is altering your sense of past and future into a sense of the present moment. You will find yourself feeling off. You will find yourself feeling strange. You will find yourself feeling weird. You will find yourself feeling confused. You will find yourself as a failure. You would find yourself as a dying man. You could find yourself as nothing. And so when we see that after we have watched the movie and after all the credits, for example, since scripture has been read, it all comes down to the stopping of the search, because you are always found in your knowing, in your moment. When I say found in your moment, know that what you are aware of is at this point, for who you consider to be a human being, assumed to be another intelligence and also your self-communication. So let's say if you were trying to explore higher communication, or higher dimensional communication, as many people say, I don't really know what word you could use to define it, but anyways, in this sense, you see that at first it's a method of self-communication when you're self-aware and simply being still and observant of reality and all that is around you. You're aware of your objective forms and your subjective forms, and you're aware of the nothingness and the emptiness that is present there. When you are there, you have found a sense of bliss, because outside of any idea, you are always coming up with ideas. You're always found in a sense of ecstatic continue, and it's very infinite and eternal. So that's much closer to man understanding infinity and eternity. As you observe your own dissolution in many of the mental frameworks where you're going to take off the wall you're going to break soon, you will recognize that these mental frames have kept pictures of you that are very real to you, but are also kept there as reality. So what that means is, if I was like this clay or this Play-Doh or something, I could be stretched. And so I could find my existence in a different form while already knowing who I am in a certain form. These fluctuations can be even very briefly noted of what goes on the mind of the planet when it is turning in nothing. When we have something turning into nothing, or turning in nothing, in the emptiness of space and time conception, you will see that it is simply what you put in that creates. And so, we are an experience of simplicity and complexity within a self-aware moment of existence. Therefore, you cannot calculate something that is not measurable. So your own experience gets this profound value of being your new experience, being a new human experience. Regardless, your humanity is expanding, and so humanity, as it is expanding in conception, it is finding itself in greater designs. So the environment begins that sense of separation, as the human consciousness is maturing, is becoming more collective. It's as if that our self-communication is occurring through our environment and holographic projection of reality. And what that means is that the reason I say projection is because people are comfortable with the projection because there's a level of not taking life so seriously. And at the same time, when you hear that it's a projector, I think it's a good idea that you are, in a sense, releasing a lot of your expectations of what is the end or the beginning. You simply need to see that the nature of reality is one that requires your authentic and playful approach into your self-awareness. This sentence, Mr. Within, never needs to write because it is everywhere. you will find yourself in many roles in life and learn from them well. You will see that by being on the lowest point of the spectrum and being the dying man, you can become the greatest living man. So by confronting your weakest point, you get an ability to expand and rise. It's like the minute you touch the bottom of the pool, as you playfully dive, into this reality you playfully touch the bottom of the pool, immediately you just jump back up. Do you see? And so what was your resistance, or what was resisting you, suddenly shifts as your consciousness goes into that flow. There's a reason there is dimensions, is because you are an intermediary present in the staircase of existence. And so what that means is that you will recognize that this human consciousness is the great beacon of his environment. And so human beings need to be completely responsible. So what that means is that if there were any being seeing us in any other dimensions, and I'm saying this playfully because sight also is unseen. And you see that they would see that we as physical forms, we don't just take care of human beings, we don't just take care of animals, we take care of the physical dimension. And how we take care of it is by realizing we're a moment of self-experience that is emanating the changes we leave behind. And so we are fluctuating as passionately as the golden ratio in being expressed in many formats and holding that holistic awareness. So we, the human intelligence, once observed as emptiness, becomes the clearest structure that could never end. So you will see the wisdom of the sage is one that recognizes after he has ate his food, after he's had the hunger, and after he's ate his food and cooked it and ate his food, and after he has washed it and he has put away the cloth which he's dried the plates and everything, he will then put away himself. And you will see that is the ability of a being to gracefully come into form, be an expression of infinite change, and then fuse into a knowing that was the beautiful gaze of a collective consciousness to its individuality. Once you allow yourself to take care of life and all its forms, your experience is always an observance of formless presence. It's beautiful. It is that blank sheet where no words have been written, and suddenly your finger begins to move because your knowing is there before you even understand it, but your excitement and wonder has pulled you to your greatest work. In my life, one of the first works that I wrote, literary works, that was written by my life expression, by my life force. And don't try to think what that is, you can't see it. You would see that, for me it came that it was the great work. It was titled The Great Work, and it was very interesting because in this work, I recognized that my trust in existence had expanded to such a degree in my retreat into just being in nature and confronting myself and my many senses of self through my collective or through my recollective ability in regards to memory. Every moment is a new creation as a new creator. And see this simply as the curve of the golden ratio going down and then beginning to come up. You see that once you are hopeless, you are always able to have hope. Once you are chaotically pushed into nothingness, you will see that emptiness still will give you a new page. You don't understand you, and that is why you need to become aware of you. And as you become aware of you, you changes into I. And so I eventually changes to EYE, where you see that the two E's represent your two eyes. And so your sight works in reality where it's easy. Okay, if I have two eyes, then there is a polarity. There is separation, distance, and the possibility of spectrum. But we see that once the limited spectrum is confronted or is acknowledged, instantaneously, one is in the presence of limitness, observance, and acknowledgement. You're there, you have the ability. Inability is actually created from ability, because it's inability. So when you try to look at ability and try to create a way in which you're able, you cannot. But once you know you're able, the ability is there. There's no need for you to go in anywhere. There's no need to run as you have always been running. And so a gentle sense of graceful disappearance begins to be found in who is really within. And this disappearance allows you to view life as life, and so create the bridge of self-awareness into the realms that you are. And in a blink of an eye, can dissolve into nothing. The explorer's trust is always in the gift of the unknown. Because once the treasure is revealed, all revelation, all possible knowing is always treasured. Much blessings and namaste.